Non-German people of Reddit, what about Germany do you find odd or different? I worked with a few Germans and maybe this is just something I'm falsely attributing to an entire people based on a really small sample size, but the thing that immediately sticks out to me is how blunt they are. They don't mince words. I find it hilarious in work situations, as Americans will typically euphemize any negative comments or criticism, really beat around the bush. Example, we were having a sales training, one German presenter and one American, and one of the sales representatives asked a question on every single slide. American presenter, let's try to hold questions until the end, I appreciate them, it's just in the interest of staying on shed dash. German guy, yes, be quiet now. You're inconveniencing everyone. I watched the room collectively make this face 6-0 in response and it had me shake laughing in the back. Dude did not give a fuck about sparing your feelings. How you can walk into the U-Bahn without having to go through a barrier. The ticketing system appears to be built entirely on trust. I remember the first time I went there as a young American. The girl I was with was from Munich and she brought me over to the ticket machine to buy a ticket for the U-Bahn. When I realized there was no turnstile, I asked her why anyone bothers to buy a ticket. And she looked a little shocked, and told me as if I were stupid, because if we didn't there would be no train. I still think it was the most German thing anyone ever said to me. When I was in Germany, I tried to practice German, but people didn't welcome it and immediately switched to English. Most disappointing thing during my trip was being in line at a McDonald's, going up and giving my order in my best German, and for them to look me dead in the eye and say, "That'll be $3.75, sir." I find it weird that, unless you inform the government that you have left the church, you pay a mandatory tax to the church. My sister's husband is German. He's a cool dude. The oddest thing I found was that there was a time in the year where they all decided to eat asparagus. They were like crazy about it. Don't know if it's just him or all Germans in general. Bathrooms must reek around late spring in Germany. Their steadfast dedication to following the rules because it makes society better. I was in Dresden walking back from a bar at about 1 a.m. and crossed the river Elbe and were waiting to cross the street. No cars were coming, no tram, nothing. Just street lights and silence and a clear line of sight both ways, completely devoid of any pedestrian hazards. And yet there stood about a dozen people on both sides of the street patiently waiting for the crossing light to flash so they could cross the street. I asked my German better half about this and the response was as typical a German response as one could expect. You cross when the light flashes, that is the law. Also, their windows are fucking awesome and a wonder of engineering. Cheap vinyl sliders can go fuck yourselves, these wonders are double hinged and can swing open from the side or the top depending on the orientation of the handle. The closed position is handle down, rotate it 90 degrees, so it is horizontal, and it swings open from the side. Close it, swing the handle up, now vertical, and the window magically hinges from the bottom and allows you to crack the top open. I've been visiting Germany for over 10 years now and I'm still delighted with these things every time I go there. Seat. Panic ensues. Living in Germany for about 6 months now, throughout my experiences with the German population, one thing you come to love is that when they are done with a conversation, they are fucking done with that conversation. As an American, we always say, "Bye, have a nice day. See you later," and all those niceties. But these peeps just say, "Tschüss," and it's over, no more words are exchanged and it honestly cracks me up every tea. I love this about my German boss. I'm socially anxious and always feel awkward about ending a conversation, but with him, I ask one thing, he answers, "We done." I've visited a few times and also just got back. In no particular order. 1. Cobblestone, paver sidewalks instead of poured cement or asphalt, more efficient for quick repairs, but more expensive initial installation. 2. The, increasingly less common, poop inspection shelf toilet, especially coupled with the dual big flush, little flush buttons. 3. Bathroom light switches on the outside of the bathroom, which is also a general European thing. 4. Basically no, open container laws, you can drink beer from a bottle in public places. 5. The deposit, fund, system for bottles, inconvenient as a tourist, neat solution to encourage recycling for residents. 6. the contempt for iced beverages. Pizza Hut is the only place LVE seen soda with ice in it, and then saw a German lady scoop the cubes out with a spoon and dump them in a nearby planter. Iced water, especially tap water, and ice in soda is generally not a thing that happens. 7. The ridiculous, and much appreciated. Cleanliness. Seeing janitors sweeping an already clean U-Bahn station at 11 at night is my favorite example. 8. Many people over the age of 25 and professionals with colored hair, especially 50 and 60-year-olds with blue or purple hair. I think most Germans actually prefer fridge-cold beverages rather than ice-cold. Most of the time it's not terribly hot here. And I don't want to pay €5 for only half a cola filled with ice. I find it odd that I don't hear about Germany more. People descended from Germans are the largest ancestral ethnic group in my country, and Germany has the largest economy in Europe and the most influence in the EU. However, we only very rarely see anything having to do with Germany in our news. Edit, I wrote this pretty early in the morning, and just noticed how bad I mangled it. Corrected multiple typos and errors. We're aiming for more subtle ways of world domination now, smiley face. Currywurst and fish brötchen. I've only been to Berlin, so maybe this is more of a Berlin thing than a Germany thing. However, for a modern and technologically advanced society they seem to have an over-reliance on cash, or maybe it's just a reluctance to use plastic. Either way, when you visit, have cash, and it better be exact change. American here. The thing that really stuck out to me when I visited was how well the dogs were trained. I didn't see a single dog on a leash, which would give every exurban white woman in the States the vapors. In Munich, I was walking up to a street corner, and a dog was sitting there. Nobody else around, just this dog. When the light changed, and it was safe to cross, he got up, crossed the street, and then just kept walking down the sidewalk. It blew my mind. A few days later, I was at a beer garden, and a dog just came up to my table with a branch. So, someone at the table started playing fetch. The dog owner came about a half hour later, smiled and waved at us, and the two went on their merry way. I really like how drinking is part of your culture, but, at least seeming to me, not in an unhealthy way. I was in Munich this January. In a beer hall, these 6 ladies, probably in their 40s or 50s, sit across from us. Everyone orders a full Mars of beer. Kinda cool. It has a lot to do with the fact that we are allowed to and it's accepted to drink from a young age. When I was 15 I was allowed to have a beer with my parents during dinner every so often. It feels as if Germans drink to drink, Americans and the English drink to get drunk. I'm Dutch. The German language is very odd, but then again so is ours, so in the end we're just brooder from another mutterland. I'm sorry, but Dutch is basically swamp German. Spaghetti is. And how much people love to strip down to nothing and sunbathe once it gets slightly warm out. Fucking paying 50 cents to go for a piss. The Germans really adore their rolls. Really. Everywhere I go, I always see people eating filled rolls, belegtes brötchen. All the places serving these are also almost always crowded. In supermarkets people are also very fond of buying rolls. I've rarely seen the Germans buying the American-style sliced white whole-grain bread. Not really odd, just wow. I personally find the rolls really tough to tear and chew without a sip of water and usually eat them with soup. Edit, I find it so funny that the Germans immediately respond here to defend or praise their beloved, filled, rolls. That's true love for a bread roll, isn't it? I'm German. When I first came to the UK, I told my au pair mum that we had run out bread, while she was out shopping after work. When she got back, she got a bit annoyed cause we had white sliced bread, toast, at home. I literally went, that is not bread. Where is the normal bread? Cultural shock, big time. As an American living in Germany for many years, one feel wholly qualified to respond to this. In no particular order. 1. Germans worship paper bureaucracy. After the rest of the world is digitized, Germany will still be printing reams and reams of unnecessary paper. 2. Public drinking is practically encouraged. This could work in some US states that have similar generous bottle return systems, such as Michigan or Oregon, but mostly I think this would turn into a mess if we did it, since we don't have the same culture. 3. I think the absence of turnstiles on public transportation is the best example of this, but yeah, the honor system is a big thing here. 4. Job interviews are a lot more straightforward, which is very refreshing. They're not trying to trick you. They're not trying to bullshit you. I'm sure this depends on industry, but friends in different industries tell me generally. 5. Shopping for anything here or running errands is super inconvenient, compared to the US. I have to take a day off and go to 5 neighborhoods to do the shopping I could do in 30 minutes in the US. Also, nothing is online for some reason. You can't even find a post office on Google Earth sometimes. I'll stop there. I could probably list things all day. 6. One that definitely needs to be mentioned. Germans have a very bizarre relationship with temperature and light breezes. AC of course doesn't exist, and summer is a time to put on a scarf and jacket, whereas winter is a time to open all the windows in sub-zero temperatures so it doesn't get stuffy. It's completely backwards. Also, many Germans, particularly the urbanite ones, winter wardrobe. Their style is the exact same all year, except in winter they'll wear a draping wool coat on top of it. Germans are perpetually fascinated by the fact that I wear thick socks and layers and spend time outside in the winter instead of just hibernating. A winter German wearing the same ankle socks, cuff pants, and Adidas shoes that he would in summer asks me, "Why do all Americans wear these smart wool socks?" I of course reply, "To keep your feet warm, you absolute maniac." They always say the same thing, "Your feet don't need to be warm." Why are clubs open so late? I guess this could be said for a lot of Europe, but I get tired. But also would like to dance with some people sometimes, just would like to do it before 1 a.m. LOL, try going to Spain. It's just typical. Not sure what the reason is. In Spain, the time zone is literally off by more than an hour compared to what is normal, so it seems like they stay out later. If you're ever there, pay attention to the sun and you'll realize it's not as ridiculous as the time makes it seem. Eating dinner at 10 p.m. is really like 8:30 or 9. Markets. As an American, I had never experienced many open-air markets. My hometown has a farmer's market once a week, but it's not very impressive. I studied abroad in Freiburg last summer and there was this huge sprawling market, almost every morning, full of fresh fruits and vegetables and knickknacks and all kinds of stuff. I went to the market pretty much every day just because it was so nice. I really wish we had those here, even in rural areas they are never quite the same. Almost every city I visited while overseas featured an active market. In the States that's just not a thing. Also, German bakeries are fantastic. If you ever go to a football game in Germany, you see guys walking around who are just a walking scarf rack. They are literally wearing dozens of scarves on their arms and body. I haven't seen that outside of Germany. German football culture is weird. Apparently German policemen were sent to the World Cup in Russia to inform the local authorities which fan behaviors were normal, since they can seem to be a bit agitated at times. Illegal to pass a car on the right. I love how your traffic lights work. The red light turns yellow before it turns green. I wish we had that in the US. It's the "put your car in first gear" light. Cake and salami at the breakfast table. And Superflaus' insistence to obey rules and follow pre-planned itineraries. I found this a lot when traveling. Nearly all Germans had routes laid out, had booked transportation and worked out travel times over a week before they were leaving places. I spoke to one person about this and she looked at me as if I was the crazy one for suggesting turning up to a bus station and see what buses are there. I am an American who just moved to Germany. Man, it is hard to find housing around here. It feels like a full-time job applying to WGs, going to Besuchtigungen, ECT. And it is taking me weeks to do. Also, people here have a real fascination with America and Americans. They find it totally unbelievable that * chose * to move out of the US in favor of Europe. Also, what's up with all the mixing? Everyone mixes shit together. They mix together pretzels, Doritos, and potato chips in the same bowl at a party, or they mix soft drinks. Fanta with Coke is super popular. They also put Coke in their beer. I'm still getting used to this new mixing culture, but I have an open mind. Also, why does everyone here like gin so much? Odd? Your music. And your sense of humor. Different? You value specialists. You obey rules. Honorable mention for both odd and different. Die. Hessen. I have a list. The likelihood I will find and meet a German that genuinely loves work, chores, and other tasks that most other normal human beings view as strenuous or undesired. As they say, most people work to live, the Germans live in order to work. Remember meeting a German that once told me they love working, love cleaning, love visiting the dentist, and their favorite part of eating bread is eating the crust. That I can go on a bus in Germany and see 80 seats and only 40 filled because by God we'll all fucking die if a German has to sit next to another person and potentially speak to them. Obvious exceptions in Bavaria, Nordrhein-Westfalen, and Berlin, but the quota of people that just hate interacting with other people is higher than average in Germany. I can get praised at work just by volunteering to actually call people since 80% of the staff views that as torture. They have a poor understanding of pie despite the fact their neighboring countries know what pie is. No, Germany, pie is not a tort. They are different. They haven't invented the sun yet. Very high quota of Germans who will proudly talk about how bold and direct they are with speaking their minds, often criticizing or insulting someone's way of doing something, but will likewise react poorly if the same is done to them. I mean, you'd think a country full of this would make them get used to this, but a decent percent just don't get accustomed to it somehow. Schlager. To flip it, that people say Germans have no sense of humor. No, they definitely do. Their dark humor game is A+. The amount of bread they eat. Like, holy shit, they are probably 90% bread. Adults riding around on push scooters. I swear every time I see a grown man on a Razor scooter it gives me a reason to chuckle. My father, 59 years old, uses one. He just says he's 5x faster with it and, because we are German after all, it's more efficient. The beer selection. The beer is very good, but usually there's very few available to choose from. I'm used to looking at a list of like 15 to 30 beers. Not bad, just different. All of the insurance. Seriously, those guys love to be insured against shit. Well, I sure as hell don't also want to have to worry about debt if something really bad happens. My parents said when they went there, they thought it was rude that everyone was leaving their beer bottles everywhere. So they started collecting them and throwing them in the trash. They didn't learn till later that was custom, and they recycled their bottles. Oops. When Germans say they'll be there at 6:32, they mean 6:32. Not 6:33 and not 6:31. Their punctuality amazes me. Being on time is actually 5 minutes before the agreed time. That it's not against the law to break out of prison and will not add any time to your sentence. That's because of our constitution and the human rights that are granted in there. It's actually considered to be very progressive and exemplary, but it's debatable how well it is put into practice by the actual laws. Deposit on cans and plastic bottles. But totally not mine to have it here. As a German, I really like it. I don't have stats, but I think it helps with plastic waste and pollution. People collect their used and empty bottles to get money back and it is really effective as far as I can tell. You might not see a big difference if you just bring back one empty bottle, but if you have 5+, you will get a return on your investment, smiley face. My friends and family regularly take back bags of empty bottles and come out with several euros of deposit returns. Like ice in your drinks? Not here, you don't. Even after an afternoon bouncing at a trampoline park, sweat running down your brow, if you want ice with that Fritz Cola you better bring it with you. They don't even have it in the kitchen, son. Water is only carbonated, and 3 to 5 euro a bottle. The Americanish children cry when you tell them there is only Schorle, not plain apple juice. Spend 6 years learning German? Your foreign language skills have no power in Bavaria. Favorite country ever. It's weird to me that everywhere isn't like Germany. I wish it was. I love you Deutschland, all the way from the UK. You'll stare. A lot. I wasn't in Germany, I was actually on holiday in Fuerteventura. I don't know if it was the time of year or if that was just a really popular destination, but most of the other guests at our hotel were German. I swear I would be eating my meal, minding my own business, and then LD look up and holy fuck, the whole room is staring at me. You guys don't back down either. A girl I dated had lived abroad in Ireland and Germany. She was an American. She said that the people she met in Ireland were very nice and chatty, but at the same time she found that almost all of them were gossiping and talking shit about her in private. She's nice, but she's a fucking Protestant. In Germany, on the other hand, most of the people she met were blunt and outspoken, but also very honest. When she first moved there, she went to a bar with several acquaintances, and after a while one of the men she was there with turned to her, told her he really disliked her, and went on a big rant about all of the reasons why he disliked her. She was taken aback and kind of terrified by this at first, but over time she found that she much preferred the behavior of people in Germany, that she'd rather have someone stab her in the front. As Oscar Wilde put it. Do you guys not actually eat many soft pretzels? My Bavarian friend laughs at our Bavarian soft pretzel stand here, says he has barely seen any soft pretzels in all of Germany. I only know American pretzels out of movies. They look weird. We have and eat a lot of pretzels in Bavaria, but they are bigger and harder and for sure not sweet. Growing up, I always heard about the Germans being super serious about everything. I always thought to myself that there was no way that could be possible. And then I visited Germany. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but Germans are a very serious people. Not serious in the way that springs to mind. They are very polite, warm and kind people. But there is a very sincere seriousness about them. I can't think of any better way to explain it than to point to German nightclubs. I've only ever been to one, but it was there that I saw German seriousness in action. It was there that I saw Germans taking fun seriously. And you know what? The results were phenomenal. I'm not a nightclub person, but the German dedication to making their clubs the best really paid off. So anyways. Germans. Serious? Yes. But serious in a good way. LVE been to Berlin. I was in this club called Tracer buying drinks in the mid-level portion when I happened to stare at the dance floor for 1 second too long. Now, I remember progressive house playing. So, I didn't expect the scene laid out before me. I stared and gawked, and eventually it clicked. Everyone was dancing in a subtle formation. I was so confused and intrigued that I watched the scene for about 10 minutes and even commented on it to my friends. They saw and were mesmerized for a few minutes as well. The Germans were dancing in a designated personal space separating one another that appeared to mimic a choreographed march of sorts. I could only wonder if some societal habits of social order never died, but merely faded into the collective subconscious. Germans seem to dance to progressive house, electronic, techno in militaristic formations and don't even know it. When I was in Germany for a few weeks, strangers did not appreciate me paying any attention to their dogs. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm used to somewhat cold interactions with people on the street, but that all goes away when there's a good dog. I even got dirty looks for smiling at dogs. I asked my friend over there about it, and she said, "Why would you smile at a dog? That's nonsense. The dog has someone to smile at it, why does it need you?" Brutal. But it was honestly a good argument. The country without speed limit on the Autobahn. At least still some parts, gotta love it, smiley face. German here, I have to correct you. Sorry for that. There is no general speed limit on the Autobahn, while still there can be parts of the Autobahn with speed limit. Have a nice day, kind stranger. Free college. It's odd. It's scary. And I fucking want to become a German citizen to get it. Germans are so weird about medicine. My German ex-boyfriend would never even take something like Tylenol. Also, their whole obsession with sparkling water never made sense to me. I like their discipline and hardworking attitude. But sometimes I just feel they always take the hard long way to do simple things. Whenever you go out for a meal, see a film, see a play, go to an art exhibition, or anything like that with Germans, there will always come the moment when everyone criticizes the thing. Everyone in the group will find something they didn't like about it and be sure to mention it. Might have been a bit slower than they liked, a bit too salty than they liked, or they found a small character in a play to be a bit extra for the part. Always. Without fail. This will happen. I've only heard this, but is it true that they rather speak to you in English than listen to you attempt to speak German? It's awfully accommodating of them if that's the case, given how this is America. Speak fucking American, we are over here. We are very polite. I'll instantly switch to English because it is easier to both of us. The Burger King establishments in Germany was amazing when I went there. Hot, right off the grill, and absolutely mouth-watering tasty. It's what I assume food in a commercial wants you to think it tastes like. Perfektenschlag. Burger comes from Hamburg. Berg means castle. Berg means mountain. There's a bit of an overlap there though, because lots of bergs were built on bergs, so both are used in a lot of names, e.g. Hamburg and Nuremberg. Just something I wanted to point out somewhere, because I see it confused sometimes. I was in Berlin for 4 days earlier this year, and people don't really randomly smile at other people unless they are directly interacting with you. It didn't really bother me, but it was noticeable. When I was boarding my plane to leave, I'd sat down in my aisle seat, and I got up to let the woman in the window seat past, and when she sat down she asked, "You're not from Germany, you?" I said I wasn't, and asked how she knew, and she said, "You smiled." The process of getting to know people. I respect the shit out of it, start formal and no small talk until invited to do so. It is also worth stating when I visited Germany, I never felt disrespected in any way. It was just a different vibe. The way I described it to people is that they aren't friendly, but they are not mean. Polite as ever, and to the point. As someone from the US, small talk is what we base everything on when it comes to getting to know others. Still confused as to how I would ever befriend someone who is German. Socks with sandals? The fact that there is no AC. I arrived in the middle of the summer and there was no AC has basically dripping in sweat in 35 degrees Celsius weather. Oh, also the poop shelf. Thing is a stuff of nightmares. Apart from that, absolutely love German though. 10/10. Would visit again. The humor. I was in line to purchase a ticket for the U-Bahn in Berlin, and got mine printed just as the train pulled up. The guy behind me in line pleasantly asked me if I was new in town, to which I answered that I was, and he said, "Well, thank you for taking so long. Now I have to wait for the next train," and smiled very nicely at me. I got on the train and said something like, "Geez, what an asshole," only to be assured that he was messing with me. What? Dude. That's some serious dedication to messing with an American student. I admire that, and am confused. The fact that the country whom breeded Nazism had a woman president before the US feels good, man. In Germany there is a difference between president and chancellor. Angela Merkel is the chancellor and pretty much runs our country, but she isn't the head of our country. Frank-Walter Steinmeier is, he mostly has a representative role though. But he has to sign every single law for it to be valid. Angela Merkel is in fact the third in line in our unofficial hierarchy. Telling the time, Brits and Germans in France after work arranging to go to a bar, we'll meet at 8:30. Germans arrive at 19:30. Brits arrive at 20:30, Germans are annoyed. Turns out to my colleagues from Hamburg, 8:30 means something like halfway through the 8th hour. Unless they were winding us up, very possible, we found this very odd. I love how you call nipples, breast words. It's awful. All German words for sexual stuff are really not sexy. I hate it. Even the ones that are similar to English, the German pronunciation makes it way worse somehow. Visiting for the first time, I was taken back by their serious opposition to jaywalking. Like get shot dirty looks for crossing an empty street without permission from the light. Only country in Europe where LVE experienced that. Really weird how this gets pointed out so much here. I'm living in a fairly large German city and I'm jaywalking a lot and I'm never getting any dirty looks. Only exception I make is when kids or the police is around. There's way more casual racism in Germany than there is in America, but it's cringy to hear, but it's so common and nonchalant that it feels harmless. A few years ago some guys in the office were doing impressions of Asian guys, slanty eyes and accents ahoy. I had to explain to my boss why that might be considered offensive. His response was that he understood, but he still found it funny. I lived and worked in Stuttgart for a year. The work culture there was fantastic, but I'm not sure if that's specific to the company I worked for or not. U-Bahn was so much easier than having a car, but if I needed a car rental was always an option. Being able to walk everywhere and hop on the train was great. Germany is very orderly in a lot of ways. Though paying for a public restroom was bothersome. My favorite part about living in Germany was definitely Weihnachtsmarkt. I used to get Glühwein on my way home from work at the Schlossplatz. I also desperately miss currywurst and mezzo mix. The US doesn't offer anything comparable to them. Truly a great place to live and work. I found 4 things really different as an American. 1. Porn and sex everywhere. America hides so much. Germany? Porn mags in every shop, and obvious brothels all over the place. Lots of movies also had sex scenes, not for titillation, but because it served the character arc. 2. Cheap and plentiful beer was always available. I actually ended up just drinking beer non-stop because it was cheaper than water. And I didn't have to worry about getting cited by the police for it, compared to America where you can drink, but if you step out of the bar with that beer, you're going to jail. 3. US-style customer service doesn't exist. The open hours are X, the rules are Y, it's your obligation to meet us within those. Compared to the US, German customer service isn't all that great. 4. Sundays. Everything is closed but the bar and brothel. Compared to America, where almost everything is still open. Chus. As an American currently vacationing in Germany, here are things that took me by surprise. The good. 1. Food. Portion sizes are large, unlike what LD heard about most of Europe, it's all very filling, authentic and regional options are everywhere, and the beer is cheap. Also, breakfast cafes everywhere. Seriously, the food is amazing. 2. Public transportation. The cities are compact, transportation is efficient, and you can bike or walk nearly everywhere. Also, cars yield to pedestrians. This was a welcome change from the soul-sucking urban sprawl and congested mega-highways in America. 3. The pace of life. Americans are always in a rush, whether it's to drive somewhere, go to work, finish their meal, go to the store, or whatever. Germans aren't rushed, but they aren't lazy either. People have a purpose, do their business and go home. They don't seem to be flying around in a hurried frenzy like so many Americans are. They're merely different. 1. Language. The German language is fascinating, and it sounds really harsh even if you're just discussing something mundane. Also, words that are 20+ letters. I found that intriguing. 2. The fascination with American beach culture. Germans seem to love California, beaches, Hollister, surfing, and anything from America circa 2005, a lot of hairstyles and music were also from that era. I was surprised to see that since it's the furthest thing I can imagine from German culture. Something about beach life just really resonates with them, I guess. 3. Smoking and drinking. America is real. Draconian about these things, and both are highly stigmatized. In Germany they're everywhere, out in public, all day every day. I even saw a woman pushing a baby stroller down the sidewalk with a beer glass in her hand. That may be a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you ask. Weed still isn't legal in Germany, which was also weird considering how chill they are towards other more mainstream drugs like tobacco and alcohol. The bad. 1. Paying for restrooms. Just, why? People say it's because they are clean, but LVE never had a problem with bathroom cleanliness in America other than at shady gas stations or nightclubs. Not only that, but some German stores and restaurants simply don't have one for customers. WTF? In America that is actually the law. Any place with over a certain number of customers needs at least one bathroom. Why do I need to pay the equivalent of $1.25 to use a toilet at a train station, or have to hunt one down in a busy city? 2. Restaurant service. Waiters in German don't rely on tips, and it shows. Some were okay, but others acted like I was inconveniencing them simply by showing up to the restaurant. One waitress took a total of 3 smoke breaks while waiting on our table. She literally sat 30 feet away from us smoking while we browsed menus and looked around for over 10 minutes. Another waiter tried to tell us we owed him a 30% tip by default. Fortunately, we had a translator with us who called him out on that. Overall, workers in Germany simply didn't seem to give a shit. Great food, lousy service. That weird B which is spoken as SS. Like Strabe is Strasse. It's not a B, it's a Schorfs or SZ, which is not that common anymore. It's getting replaced by a double S, not calling it SS for historical reasons. The whole idea about remembrance of the world wars. To the victors it's time to remember the dead and their deed to our nation, while in German it would be completely different. A line from the first Captain America movie comes to mind. What people often forget, the first country the Nazis invaded was their own. Dr. Erskine. I imagine in Germany it's just to remember the lives lost in general. Volkstrauertag is a day to remember the lives lost in war, yeah. You can go out alone and you will always find some drinking buddies. There are always people up for way too much alcohol, it's awesome. If we love one thing over everything else, it's drinking.